start.
Hi everybody, we're glad you're here. This is the first and hopefully start of the annual ALA conference information session. We all know as students that it's really important that we get involved in the profession beyond the classroom, but sometimes it's really hard to do that because we just don't know where to go or when to go or how to get there. So we're going to go over everything you need to know as basics for conference attendance today so that we can all start getting out there, networking, making those connections that are so important in this field. So we're going to go over some important upcoming conferences first, give you the dates and locations of those. Then we're going to go into how you can finance actually going to the conferences because that's usually a big concern for everybody. And then we'll give you a little bit of information about Irb Approval if you're looking to do a study that would require that. And then we will finish up with a little list about conference do's and don'ts. So I'm going to turn it over to Alexa right now, and she's going to go over some of the upcoming conferences.
Hi everybody, I'm Alexa, and so I'm just going to go over some of the upcoming major conferences. So I'm going to start with coming up in the fall. We have the Academic Library Association of Ohio, and that's going to be October 25th, so it's coming up real soon. And that's in North Canton, Ohio. Okay, and then we have the 2013 LEDA Forum, which is November 7th through the 10th. And this is going to be a good one because it's in Louisville. So if anyone in the area, that would be a real easy one to get to. That's pretty much all the major ones in this year. So moving on to spring and summer of 2014. We have the ALA Midwinter Meeting, and that runs from January 24th to the 28th, and that's in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And then in March 11th through the 15th, we have the Public Library Association, and that's in Indianapolis, Indiana. And then in May, we have the Medical Library Association, and that'll be the 16th through the 21st in Boston. SLA Annual Conference is June 8th through the 10th in Vancouver, Canada. And the annual conference for ALA is going to be June 26th through July 1st. Is it, which one is it?
No, it's the June dates.
Okay, yeah. And that's in Las Vegas this year, so party in Las Vegas. And then we have the ALA Virtual Conference, July 23rd through the 24th. And SAA has their annual meeting August 10th through the 16th in DC. And that's going to cover the conferences.
Okay, I'm going to need you to click on things. Okay. So one of the biggest questions everybody always asks is, great, I know when they are, but how do I afford to go? Because conferences, we all know, are expensive in terms of registration fees and booking your hotel room and making sure that you can actually eat while you're there. We understand all of this. SLIS has an official funding form that you can fill out. You're much more likely to be funded if you are presenting rather than just attending. So it's a very good thing to think of projects that you might present and to make sure that you look and follow the dates for presentation submissions so that you can actually be a presenter in these conferences. To get to the SLIS funding, if you'll go into Student Life, you'll notice that there is a request funding link right below Distance Learners. If you click on it, you will end up in this very nifty form that will ask you questions like, when's the conference? When does it run? What kind of involvement are you going to have in it? And then it asks you, scroll a little more, what are the total costs involved? So you really need to do your homework ahead of time and figure out what is actually going to conceivably cost you to go and do this conference. The more information you can present, the better case that you can make, the more likely you are to get funding. It's not guaranteed, but this is a very good opportunity if you need a little extra help. You can also apply for scholarships for particular conferences. Sometimes they have student scholarships that you can apply for. ALA in particular has a student to staff program where they will actually pay your conference fee and house you and feed you for the ALA conference. And applications for that should be coming out sometime in November. We'll make an announcement when they do. And there are also sometimes travel funding for particular conferences. It's going to depend on the conference and whether or not you qualify, but it's worth looking at every single opportunity that you have and applying for anything that you qualify for, because you never know when an organization is going to decide that yes, they would be happy to help you go to a conference. There are cases too where if you work in a library, sometimes libraries will help you go. This is becoming more and more rare as budgets are tightening, but you never know until you ask, and it's always good to exhaust all those resources so that you know that you've tried everything that you can. So that's all for financing attendance, and we're going to turn it over to Kristen, who's going to talk a little bit about Irb Approval so that you can actually get your studies approved and can go present them.
Hi. So when you go to a conference and you want to do a presentation, there may be a chance that you want to do a survey to gather information from librarians and patrons. So you will need Irb approval for this, and this is basically just to make sure that your survey isn't going to cause physical or emotional distress for the people involved. There's a website listed on your handout, which I believe will also be posted. So this gives you links to the different forms you'll need to fill out, and it's basically a form that is several pages long. You'll also need to attach your survey. You'll need a signature from your advisor and the department chairperson, which for School of Library Science is Nancy Harrington. You will also need to complete the mandatory human subject protection training. It's important to remember that you will need to do that regardless of which form you have to complete. So even if you're doing the exemption form, you still have to complete this training. It can also be a very long and involved process, but don't be intimidated, but you should still remember to do this well in advance of when you want to send out your survey in case you have to resubmit it for revisions.
So the last thing we're going to talk about is sort of conference do's and don'ts, things that you should keep in mind to do, things that you should avoid doing. This isn't a comprehensive list, it's just kind of a way to sort of get you started if you're feeling a little uncomfortable going and are not quite sure what to expect. So number one, register early. Go ahead and make the decision. You'll get a lot of discounts if you are a student member of organizations like KLA or SLA or ALA. A lot of times there's student rates for conferences, so you can take advantage of that to save some money. Also, check the registration and presentation deadlines. Like I said before, you don't want to register late because it usually costs more. And you want to make sure that you get all your presentation submissions in early so that you actually have a fighting chance of being chosen. You also want to bring a copy of any sort of registration records or receipts that you have, because technology, we all know, will fail in the worst moments. And you want to be able to prove that you are in fact registered for the conference and hotel that you will be staying at. Nothing could be worse than getting to a conference and they can't find your reservation for the hotel room, so you're scrambling at the last minute. So just do yourself a favor and bring all your receipts with you. Also, back up your presentations in multiple places, have lots of different access points, because again, technology will fail. Conference internet access is notoriously bad because everybody's trying to get on and the Wi-Fi can't handle it. So go ahead and pull something off on a flash drive. Make sure that you have multiple ways of getting to your presentation and accessing it, so that if something does inevitably happen, it won't be an issue for you. Be prepared for technology to fail is the next one. We've already gone over that. Things will go wrong. Maybe the presentation screen won't come down, the clicker won't work. The more you practice your presentation, the more comfortable you are with it, the less likely that technological issues are going to have a consequence for you. Also, dress professionally. Remember, these are people who are in the profession. These are people that you want to impress. This is a case of dress for the job you want, not the job that you have. So the more you can create a sense of ethos, a sense of credibility as you're at that conference, the better off you're going to be, because people will remember you and will remember, oh yes, that was the girl that dressed appropriately for this. That we know that she can handle this job that she's applying for. Also, wear comfortable shoes. This is not the time to wear brand new dress shoes or dress heels. You're going to be walking around, standing, sitting, moving all day. So whatever is the most comfortable, most appropriate pair of shoes you own, wear those. Especially if it's a multi-day conference, because by day 3, you will be thanking yourself for wearing comfortable shoes. Also, wear your name tag, except when you're on the streets, because then you'll just look silly. But at meetings, if you're taking a shuttle anywhere, anytime you're doing a kind of social activity, you want people to know who you are. It doesn't do you any good if somebody goes, oh, do you remember that girl with the red hair? They need to know what your name is. They need to know what institution you belong to, so that when you ask them for a job recommendation, when you ask them for information, when you ask them for a job, they can put your name back with your face. And of course, network. The whole point, or a good point of conferences, is to go and to meet people. Don't have your headphones in or check your email constantly. Don't be in your own little bubble. Introduce yourself to people. Make connections. If you don't know people, that's okay. Strike up a conversation at lunch. But get to know at least a couple of people and then follow up with them after you get back and let them know how nice it was to meet them so that you are the one that they remember. So a couple of conferences don'ts. Don't be late. To the conference, to a session, to whatever it is that you're doing, it makes a very poor impression. We all know that. So you need to plan your time accordingly and make sure that you give yourself, especially for things like ALA where you may be going a fair piece between sessions, give yourself enough time to get there and to get settled before the presentation starts. We all know that nothing's more disruptive than somebody coming in after a presentation's already begun. Don't act unprofessionally. If it's not something that you would do in front of a future employer, it's not something you should be doing at the conference. You are always in the public eye, and you need to remember that and act accordingly. You are networking, so this is a chance for you to show yourself off to your best advantage, so make sure that you do that. Also, don't forget to take notes. The whole point of going to a conference is to learn something. I think we can all agree with that. But if you don't remember anything that's been said when you get done with it, you haven't taken the best advantage that you could. Whatever works for you, whether that's pen and paper, an iPad, just make sure that you're writing things down that you're going to remember. And finally, don't neglect to actually plan some free time for yourself in the city. Most of the time, if you're going to a conference, you're going somewhere new, maybe somewhere that you've never been or somewhere that you've only been a couple of times. There's usually time in the evenings, or maybe you could stay, a little later on the day that you were going to check out, but give yourself a chance to actually experience the city, because you never know that you might end up relocating there when you're doing a job hunt. And if you can already say, look, I'm comfortable, I was here for X conference, I kind of got the lay of the land, you look like a much better catch than a person who's like, I don't really travel a lot, and when I do, I don't ever go out and see the local scene. So at this point, we'll invite any questions that you have. We'll make sure that the lovely flyer is up on the website available to you. If you'll notice at the top of the upcoming conferences, we have a nice little link. There's a wonderful man by the name of Douglas Hasty who has put together a website that he updates constantly that has all the conference information for all of the conferences in the US and internationally. So if you can't find something, say you're not local to the Lexington area, maybe you're one of our distance students out in California, you can look by region and find the conferences that are near you and when they are. So at this point, we'll take any questions that you might have. Any online questions? Do we have to present to go to the ALA meetings? Deanna, do you mean the ALA conference itself or just any kind of like UK ALA? Yeah, the conference itself. No, you don't have to present, but if you're looking to get funding from the school, if you do present, you're more likely to get funding. But any of the conferences, it's not required that you present. Most people that attend the conferences don't present. So anything that you want to go to, rest assured that it is not a requirement that you actually participate in that way. They're just happy that you're there. It's a very good opportunity.
And for some conferences like LOAX, last year they took 5 students who weren't presenting. So sometimes there's a cap.
And sometimes there is a cap.
Yeah.
So every conference is going to have different sort of operating rules, and the more that you look into the conferences, the ones that you want to go to early on, the more likely you are to get to do what you want to do when you want to do it. Deanna, did that answer your question? Okay, great. Any other questions?
Did you want to maybe mention possibilities for volunteering at conference?
we can do that too. As some of you know, and some of you took advantage of, a lot of times you can volunteer at conferences, and that can help underwrite some of your costs. So a lot of us that went to the recent KLA KSOL conference volunteered at the SLIS booth for an hour and got our lunch and our conference fee paid for. So that's also another solution that you can do if you'd like to go to a conference, but maybe it's just not in your budget. Heather, do you want to add anything about that?
I've done that for the McConnell Center Conference, which is we held here last year, and it was really great. I worked the registration booth, and I helped out throughout the day. I got to meet famous children's authors and illustrators, really great opportunity. And I also did a poster presentation as well, so I was volunteering and presenting. What I can say about volunteering is make sure you're subscribed to the SLIS listserv, and also ask your professors, ask your advisor, and people that you know in the industry and the profession about volunteer opportunities. See if there are any advertised. A lot of times, if people are seeking volunteers or there is a student opportunity, that will be posted there. I mean, volunteering is always a great way not only to, I think, attend a conference for less, but as a volunteer, you're also serving that conference, and that makes you an important part of the conference experience.
And that's exactly what the ALA Student to Staff program is. You volunteer, I believe it's 16 hours, 4 hours every day of your time to do whatever activity that needs to be done, and that's how you end up, quote, earning the lovely scholarship that's provided for you to actually be able to go. That one is very competitive. Not every school that has an ALA chapter gets to go, and only one student per chapter gets chosen. So we'll all be competing against each other. May the best person go. But I encourage everybody to apply, because you just never know when you're going to be the one that's chosen, and you'll never get funding if you don't apply, but you may get funding if you do. So if you're really serious about going, take advantage of every opportunity that you have so that you can make sure that you get a chance to go to some of these really great conferences. Any final thoughts? Holly.
What conferences or meetings have you been to, and what do you recommend? What ones have you had the most fun at that you would recommend?
Personally, for me, the only one that I have gotten a chance to go to so far is the recent KLA KSOL conference. I am planning on going to KLA SLA in the spring when they announce it. Those dates and locations are TBA. As soon as we know, you will know. I'm also hoping to go to ALA National this year. And if I can swing it, the ALA Midwinter meeting, but that may be a little difficult since I do teach. My favorite part of the conferences has been meeting people. You meet people from all over the world. I had lunch at the recent conference with school and public librarians from all over the state of Kentucky, people that I never would have met before, who were absolutely wonderful ladies. And when I told them that I was planning on going sort of the academic library track, they were very supportive, gave me a lot of really good advice about getting involved in the profession, making connections, and just couldn't have been nicer. And I didn't know a soul when I sat down, and I felt like I had made 6 new friends by the time I left. Which is why I tell you that it's so important, even if that's a little outside of your comfort zone, to just introduce yourself. I think we can all agree that we're a pretty friendly profession. Everybody's very nice. I've never met a mean librarian. So the more people you can get to know, the better off you are. And it's also nice if you volunteer, as Heather noted, because you get a chance to be behind the scenes a little and to see what goes into a conference and to be part of that to make it happen. And that in and of itself is really great preparation for jobs that you're going to do, because there's always something that needs to be prepared, there's always something that needs to be done, and the more skills you have, the better off you are. Holly, did that answer your question?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Thank you for that question.
I was just curious.
Would anybody else like to speak of conferences they've been to?
I went to the KLA SLA last spring, and I plan on going again this spring. It's a really informal, it's a really nice conference to go to. They had presenters from all over the country, even though it was more a local conference, so it was really nice to see.
maybe this will be Alexa's year.
LOX was a lot of fun. I went to LOX last year. I can speak on that. It's a ton of fun. If you're into information literacy, go. Be ready to attempt to sign up at the start time for the conference if you are not accepted to submit a poster. So, and definitely submit a poster for KLA SLA if you're going in the spring, because that was fun and you get to meet people from all over. I did that last spring. And if you want to ride to Midwinter, I'm going to Midwinter.
Good to know. That's another good thing is share resources with your fellow students. If you can get a bunch of people to go and share the cost of a hotel room and the travel expenses, you've already lowered your cost. There's always people that want to go to conferences and we all try to do it all by ourselves, but if we would just pool our resources, we'd have a much better shot at going. So use this list, virtual commons, use the listserv, grab people in your classes, see what everybody wants to do. We all know each other, but we don't talk a lot outside of class. And this is a good chance to not only get to know people, because you'll be spending a whole weekend with them, but it's a chance to network, because we don't all know where we're gonna end up for jobs either. So get to know your classmates through conferences and make those connections.
Well, I can say that as a person who's done a major cross-country internship at Library of Congress last spring, and as someone who has gone to several little regional conferences, it's always great to talk to people in class and discussion boards. I ended up driving from here to DC with somebody who I had never met save for online classes, and now we're like best friends and we're Facebook buddies, and she's a person I can talk to who's already working in the profession. So it's not just networking at conferences, but you can also network to get to conferences.
Exactly. We all need to know each other. This is not that big of a profession. We're all gonna run in some of the same circles. So the more people you get to know now, whether that's fellow students, whether that's professors, whether that's future librarians or practicing librarians, the more people you know, the more fun you're gonna have, the better off you're gonna be. So if nobody else has any other questions, we will end the presentation for today. Be looking for an announcement about the video and the flyer. And if you guys have any questions, you're more than welcome to email ALA. Our contact information can be found on the list website or on our Facebook, where you should like us, or on our blog. And don't forget that ALA is having our membership drive. So if you join ALA and you post on our Facebook or on our Twitter to let us know that you're an ALA member, you will get entered into a drawing for a $20 Amazon card. And that goes through the 15th. I believe it's 15th. So we've got about a week left to get that done. We'll also be holding a bake sale pretty soon so that we can raise money and do more things as a chapter. And more information about that will also be going out on the listserv. So if you're interested in either donating baked goods or in participating, we'd be happy to have you. Thank you very much.